Honestly, the judge is a complete fool if he thinks his opinion matters to me. His ruling is utterly ridiculous.
The actions of Judge Caprio after his daughter attacked an elderly man who was a billionaire. The incident was not my fault, as he should have acted differently. The words arrived in a mutter, half of her own voice, before the case was even started. Judge Frank Caprio heard them, as did the stenographer and officer who stood near the witness box, and who, with the precision he had acquired after 40 years of learning, sat with his pen and listened intently. He took off his glasses and threw them in the air. He then gazed at the 26-year-old woman sitting behind him with her arms crossed, looking both bored and annoyed. "Would you like to repeat that?" he inquired. She blinked. Her lawyer, Martin Devo, placed a hand on her forearm. She didn't move away, but she did. Caprio leaned forward. His voice remained composed, as if the elderly veteran you assaulted should have steered clear of you. Arianna Kingsley's face distended and looked to her lawyer. He shook his head hard once. Caprio didn't hesitate. The court has heard many things. The suggestion that a 71-year-old disabled veteran was pushed to the floor for inconvenience is not acceptable. Caprio wants everyone to see the proceedings, and yes, this hearing is public record to understand this. What can we learn from this incident? Wealth does not guarantee immunity, and if it is misused, privilege can be used as evidence. If you're viewing this from any location, please state your birthplace and subscribe to the court's rules, as the outcome will be significant. The clerk, Miss Reyes, spoke with a calm and authoritative tone. Case number 2025 CR 4419 pertains to Arianna Kingsley, with 4 charges involving assault and battery on an elderly person, reckless endangerment, harassment, and contempt for destruction. Devo was charged immediately. He had a costly suit, whose tone was carefully crafted to close cases before they were even opened. Miss Kingsley is deeply sorry for this and is willing to take responsibility, pay all fines and restitution, and ultimately resolve the matter today. Despite having graduated from Wharton and serving on the boards of 2 charitable foundations, there was a regrettable miscommunication. Our request is for a peaceful resolution and no need for extended proceedings. Caprio's eye contact remained with Arianna. She hesitated, saying, "Because it's something you pay for and then forget." What is the reason behind Caprio's repetition? Did he have a misunderstanding? Is it accurate to say that Caprio pushed a 71-year-old man to the ground, and then he grabbed my arm first? Did he go to the clerk? Yes, Caprio. Is there a previous administrative advisory, Miss Reyes? A guest at the Providence Children's Hospital Charity Gala reported that Miss Reyes had a verbal dispute with security and attempted to push them out of the way they were asked to present credentials, which resulted in her being verbally rebuked 9 months ago. Caprio looked back at Arianna. You've previously faced challenges with the concept of boundaries. Devo stood up again. Your esteem, that situation was resolved informally. There were no charges filed. Caprio's interruption emphasized the importance of a pattern where people assume the rules do not apply, despite prior warnings. On the 14th of March, 2024 at 7:42 p.m., Arianna leaned back into her chair. Her voice sounded with a dismissive tone that only comes from years of being insulated. He grasped my arm. I reacted. That's in self-defense. Caprio nodded his head. Self-defense against a 71-year-old man wielding an iron fist. He shouldn't have touched me. What did he say before touching you? She shook her head. I can't remember anything. Caprio glanced at the file in front of him and read aloud, unaware of what he was referring to. At around 2:15 p.m. on October 7th, Margaret Chen, a dental hygienist aged 48, reported seeing her dog walking near the Riverwalk access ramp. She stated, "The dog was walking fast and texting, and the cane-wielding individual suggested that we slow down." She didn't stop as people were using this ramp. He reached out to grab her, and then she turned and pushed him with both hands, causing him to fall backward and his cane to sway. The courtroom remained quiet. Caprio glanced back and asked, "Did that make you remember?" Arianna's face was pale. She'll exaggerate. Does she exist? Individuals have an inclination to perceive things. Witness evidence suggests that she pushed him both ways. Caprio glanced at the officer who was positioned by the side of the courtroom. "Officer Helena Ortiz, dressed in her uniform and with a neutral expression, stepped forward. The clerk sat her on the witness stand, and Caprio's voice was soft. The court was informed by Officer Ortiz about what he saw on October 7th. Ortiz unpacked a small notebook. Her voice was clear and professional. I responded to an assault report near the Riverwalk ramp at approximately 2:17 p.m. When I arrived, I found an elderly man sitting on the floor. He was being aided by a bystander. His cane was several feet away. There was an alleged laceration on his left elbow, and he seemed disoriented. She turned to Paige. During our conversation, the victim, who identified as Staff Sgt. William Doyle, disclosed that he had requested a young woman to slow down near the ramp because of the high traffic area's accessibility for people with mobility devices. He responded by touching her arm to draw her attention. After she shoved him, he lost his footing and fell, leaving Caprio looking injured. Yes, thank you. EMS attended the scene where he received treatment for a cut on his elbow and bruises to his hip. He also reported experiencing discomfort in his lower back. Did Ortiz have a desire to press charges? He initially declined, stating that he only wanted an apology, but when the defendant returned and refused to acknowledge what had happened, his offer was granted. Caprio's gaze widened. She returned and said, "Yes, I am honored." She then approached Sergeant Doyle and stated, "I'm quoting from my notes." The room was filled with laughter as Caprio looked at his ex-girlfriend and acknowledged that she had no right to touch him. Ortiz remained silent and proceeded to say that she had tried to issue a citation. The defendant then ripped the sentence in half and dropped it on the ground. She then stated, "My father is Gregory Kingsley." "You don't know who you are talking to?" The court went silent for a minute with Caprio holding back. He reacted by asking the clerk, "Miss Ray, are you aware of any conversations about this matter?" Miss Ray's nodded. "Yes, thank you for your service." Within 22 minutes of the citation being issued, Kingsley Global Holdings made 2 phone calls and sent 1 email to the court, and Caprio's face remained unchanged. What was the content of these communications? A folder was opened by Miss Ray's. The first call was made at 2:39 p.m. by a legal aide who requested case details and suggested an informal resolution to the issue. A senior legal representative contacted me to request a prompt resolution. The email, sent at 3:01 p.m., mentioned the Kingsley family's significance to Providence civic initiatives and demanded privacy with the judge. Devo stood. Miss Kingsley did not approve of those messages. Did she inform anyone about the incident? Caprio inquired. Devo paused briefly. It's conceivable that she brought it up with her family, or else she did, as per Caprio. Her family legal team quickly rallied to pressure this court. He approached Miss Ray's, read the email into the record, and then let her know. "We are the legal representatives of the Kingsley family and their associates. It is understood that Miss Arianna Kingsley was given a citation earlier today. The Kingsley family's long-standing involvement in Providence civic projects makes it possible to resolve this matter amicably and with a respectful manner. We are grateful for your patience. Contact Caprio at any earliest possible time to explore this resolution." She lowered her gaze. When logged in, the pressure becomes evident. Dial 1439 1451 151. Caprio lowered his head. "If you think about disregarding justice, subscribe to the law." The clerk inquired if he could locate Sergeant Doyle. "Honor your words by speaking on the phone." Then a voice emerged in the courtroom. The tone was calm, gritty, and patient, all the while Caprio thanked Sergeant Doyle for being available. "Would you be able to clarify what happened on October 7th in your own words?" There was a moment of silence. Doyle's voice was like that of someone who had seen too much and expected too little. "I was walking near the Riverwalk ramp. I wield a cane. My back and hip were amputated during my military service. The ramp is overflowing with people. I witnessed an unruly young woman walking at great speed." "Miss, you please, slow down. This ramp is being used by others." I reached out and touched her arm, but she proceeded to spin around and stomp on me, causing me to tumble. There wasn't a scratch under his voice. I'd been knocked down in combat and thrown out by explosions, but it hurts more than bruises. I didn't want to press charges, and all I wanted was for her to say sorry, but when she returned and said it was my fault, I knew it would be a mistake, and I thought I might as well pass the lesson on to her. The tone of Caprio's voice was gentle. I appreciate your service to our country, and I trust that this court will treat you with the respect you deserve. Thank you for your honor. The line broke. Respect is the ultimate way to win. Caprio returned to Arianna. With her hands folded, she gazed at the table. Do you have anything to say to Sergeant Doyle? She didn't look up. Her voice was barely audible. I'm sorry, you're apologizing, Caprio. For what? I'm upset that you pushed him and said something when you came back, Caprio. She hesitated. You pointed fingers at a veteran for standing in your way, but she didn't. Caprio leaned back. Could I ask about Sergeant Doyle's involvement? During your time at charity galas, he was rescuing people from burning buildings, while you were texting on a ramp about walking after his injuries. Moreover, you conveyed your appreciation for his service, sacrifice, and dignity when you pushed him. Your convenience is more important than anything else. Arianna's attorney pulled her away. Her voice became slightly defensive. The veterans are requesting recognition for everything. The room thrashed after 5 seconds, 7, 10, 12. The time came when entitlement and sacrifice were at odds. Caprio's voice became more subdued when the opportunity arose. She glanced upward. Caprio's words, which now appears on the record, were intended to bring attention to her flushed face. He opened the case file and read silently for a few seconds before beginning to read. The evidence reveals that the defendant walked at high speed, ignored Sergeant Doyle's warning, and shoved him when he tried to get her attention. The EMS report confirms that the victim sustained an injury from the fall. Witnesses' testimony supports the defendant's claim of dismissal, entitlement, and disregard for the well-being of others. He turned a page. The eradication of a valid indictment confirmed by Officer Ortiz's statement. Efforts to manipulate the court system through external pressure verified by call logs and email records. Previous warning for similar conduct verified with administrative records, concluding that he had closed the case. $1,450 is the typical fine for these offenses, and I'm imposing $15,000. This is contingent on a stay of $13,000. The expression on Devo's face turned white. Caprio acknowledged his honor by offering 180 hours of community service under the Veteran Mobility and Access Program. You won't send a check, but instead, you will show up and listen to those who need you and learn how to serve them. Arianna's hands were shaking. You will personally apologize to Sergeant Doyle and Officer Ortiz. There are no attorneys or editors, and your words will be written in handwriting. He turned over another page. You will create 2 public service announcements. One is titled Respecting Veterans and Accessible Spaces, while the other is entitled Strength Isn't Status. The court will review both of them before they are released, and they will be broadcasted on local television. Your name will also be included. His voice was firm. You will be required to attend every session of the 12-week anger accountability course and write a 1,000-word final essay titled Strength Isn't Status. Caprio leaned in. Within 16 weeks, you will receive documentation every 2 weeks. Any missed deadlines, incomplete work, or attempt to have someone else complete it on your behalf will result in failure. The $13,000 fine is due today, and I pay the additional $120 in adult correctional facilities. He paused. Mercy is a contract. It demands effort, humility, and change. If you're unwilling to comply with those conditions, the other option is available. Arianna's voice cracked. I'll do it. Caprio glanced at her and said, We'll either do it or we will try. We will see. The ledger for service deadlines from weeks 2 to 16 will be published by this court, along with a quarterly public influence log. Any attempt by any party to contact court officials regarding pending cases will be recorded and made available to the public. We will also establish a donor contact firewall. No communications from philanthropic entities or their representatives will go to chambers without prior judicial approval. He looked back at Arianna. In addition, a senior protection escalation protocol will be implemented in Providence Municipal Court. Any case involving harm to an individual over 65 years old will now be subject to mandatory review, and outreach efforts will also be made to victim services. Additionally, all municipal staff will complete an obligatory veteran respect training module within 90 days. Strength is determined by restraint, not wealth. The proceedings in the court were halted by the presentation of 16 weeks' worth of service logs, handwritten notes, and meticulous notes. Week 2 saw Arianna reporting to the Veteran Mobility and Access Program. Her supervisor, a retired Marine named Hector, assigned her to inspect wheelchair ramps. She recorded obstacles in her journal. I was astonished by the number of places that are impossible to reach if you're unable to walk. Her first apology letter was sent to Sergeant Doyle, but it was later returned as too formal and detached. The note from the court read, "Try again." At her first anger accountability session, Arianna was challenged by the facilitator who asked why she felt she was entitled. She emphasized the importance of writing honestly. During week 6, she encountered Marcus, a 49-year-old veteran who had lost both legs in Afghanistan. He told her, "People don't see the chair, they see an obstacle." Week 8, Arianna. Her second apology draft, sent to Sergeant Doyle, was concise and sincere, with the message, "You didn't come across as a person, but you were something in my way. I'm making an effort to improve my situation, and I appreciate your help, please," Doyle remarked in week 10. During his visit to the program, Officer Ortiz observed Arianna's assistance in constructing a portable ramp at the community center. He later confirmed that she listened attentively. During her first PSA in week 12, Arianna remarked, "I shoved a veteran because I believed his dignity was more important than mine. I was mistaken." In the 14th week, she submitted her reflection essay, stating that being a Kingsley necessitated being elevated above others. "Being a human requires me to stand next to them. My father's wealth didn't give me the strength I needed, and it made me blind. The key to success lies in being self-reliant, interacting with others, and taking care of those around you. Week 16 carries the responsibility." Upon her return, Arianna Kingsley was alone in the courtroom, without any legal representation or support. There wasn't a designer handbag on her mind. Caprio glanced at her. "Speak up." She paused. "I met Sergeant Doyle, Officer Ortiz, Hector, Marcus, and many others. I completed all the tasks you requested, including 180 hours of writing letters and PSAs. They taught me things that my education had never learned." Her voice remained unwavering. "When I entered, I believed I was exceptional solely because of my surname, but that was not the case. There's a distinction. Extraordinary is the outcome of your hard work, whereas entitlement is determined by your own standards. I expected everything. I had no earnings." She paused. "I cannot undo what I did to Sergeant Doyle, but I can ensure that I don't treat anyone like that again in the future. I'm seeking a moment to showcase my transformation." Caprio remained silent until he spoke. "The state fine is waived." "You are owed $2,000 today." Arianna nodded in agreement. "That doesn't change the fact that you have met the terms. That means you've already started. The real work doesn't end here, every day and every interaction for the rest of your life." He leaned forward. "You inquired if I would decrease the fine, and I agreed to it, but understand that the punishment was just a reflection of my actions. It's entirely up to you to decide what you viewed." Arianna looked on. "Thank you much for your kind words." "Don't belittle me." "Thank you, Sergeant Doyle. You were given something undeserved, Grace." The timeline for citywide policy updates in Q1 2025 prompted the viewer to examine the gallery. Is it necessary to serve seniors in all assault cases involving older individuals? If you still hold the belief that people are above the law, consider subscribing to the court order option. This is a warning, given that Providence's first quarterly influence log was published 4 months later. 3 bypassing attempts were documented, but they were all denied. The filtering of donors' contact information was incorporated into municipal policy. No philanthropic messages were sent to judicial chambers without prior approval. The escalation of senior protection was implemented throughout the city. Victims ranging over 65 were given automatic review and victim service outreach. 97% of municipal staff completed the Veteran Respect training module within 90 days. Kingsley Global Holdings quietly implemented an internal ethics policy that mandates board members to disclose legal incidents and recuse themselves from influence attempts. Sergeant William Doyle was honored by the city in a small ceremony with the use of his cane. Arianna was present. Without saying anything, she simply stood in the back and clapped. Officer Helena Ortiz was promoted to sergeant 6 months later. She mentioned the Kingsley case in her application essay as a reason for wearing the badge. Arianna Kingsley volunteered on a regular basis, but she didn't include it in her bio or make it public. She gauged the length of ramps, heard stories, learned names, and entered to defend her position. She departed to safeguard her humanity. Judge Caprio had a handwritten note card on his desk that stated, "Respect is the weight of character." He checked it every morning before the court session. Gemsteros lures are a type of drama that is intended for storytelling and education, not for legal advice or reporting.